because he thinks those Nazis are his voters. He thinks the alt-right are his voters, because they are.
I do have to give you guys credit for a revolution well done.
Ayo, Cenk congratulating them on the revolution? Cenky, you got some splaining to do. I know your numbers are down and TYT isn't cool anymore, but now you're congratulating them after all the things you've said over and over and over about them for years, especially when it comes to the racial issues.
Would I be hyperbolic to say half the people in that room at that event believe that white people are superior?
Yeah, it's not a great way of framing it, Mark.
Yeah, it's not a great way of framing it, Mark. Cenk is telling a black man in America that he shouldn't care about whether Cenk was potentially congratulating an audience with a sizable amount of white supremacists on winning their white supremacist revolution. These days, Cenk claims to think the supposed right-wing populists have common objectives with left-wing populists. Cenk somehow doesn't know that the strongest components of right-wing populism are nativism, xenophobia, anti-immigration, protectionism. You know, some of the really popular aspects of Trump's appeal, besides the comedy, of course. Cenk doesn't want to frame things this way because he supposedly wants to unite with them on welfare issues that they seem to support, except he forgets one crucial thing. While right-wing populists may support certain social welfare, they tend to be very particular about who is worthy of receiving it. I know, just some trivial details to Cenk.
How about 25%?
Yes, I understand what you're saying, but since they don't consciously think that, they're going to be repelled by you saying that.
They're going to be repelled by you saying that. So if someone wants to subconsciously treat you like a second-class citizen, do hate crimes on you, discriminate against you, take away your rights, delegitimize you from having rights, throw you out of the country, and then turn around and bomb the country they threw you to just to keep it all the way real. Yeah, that's perfectly fine as long as it's subconscious and not conscious.
That's the most unbelievable and one of the most deeply racist things I've ever heard. But that doesn't hurt him politically. It helps him because you cued your, whether conscious or subconsciously racist voters, black man, oh, I'm scared, I'm gonna vote for Trump. And it's amazing how that works, and it's also depressing how that works. But it is a real phenomenon.
Speaking of amazing and depressing, you used to understand subconscious racism could negatively impact people in critical ways, but now you think racists want to hand out paid family leave across the board, or that it's perfectly fine to put racial equality on the chopping block to pretend to peddle ideas to people who don't need you at all to enact those ideas for themselves, and to the exclusion of those they perceive as others. Not gonna lie, I think Cenk's recent attitude and right-wing characterization of this issue as just randomly pointing fingers at people and calling everyone racist for no reason to be worse than people who have been racist their entire lives and don't know any better, because Cenk knows better, but he's doing this as a career move.
Racism wasn't the bug, it was the feature. That's why we picked Trump out of 17 people, because the others were doing dog whistles and were too stupid for dog whistles, whereas the other guy just said it. And I was like, yeah, I like that. Yeah, send back black people and Arabs to where they came from.
So racism wasn't a bug, it was a feature. Did anyone tell Cenk it's also a feature of right-wing populism? I would say he's a total clown, but one, you already know that, and two, bro is legit devious.
But look at the Republicans. 67% approved, only 22% disapproved. So maybe I gave Republican voters too much credit earlier in the week, and apparently I had too good an opinion of Republican voters. I guess they're much worse than I thought.
A few years later.
They don't have any kind of white supremacist agenda. not necessarily misogynists or something. They might have old stereotypes in their head.
One of the things in common between these clips taken years apart is Cenk's bad acting. Let's see some more of Cenk's bad acting from a few years ago.
And here's 2/3 of Republicans going, you want to blame the people who got killed, who were there to protest against Nazis? As they were chanting, the Jews will not replace us, as they were carrying in Klan outfits and white supremacist outfits and swastikas. 2/3 of Republican voters saying, yeah, that's fine. Blame both sides, no problem. Make the Nazis and the anti-Nazis on the same moral plane. That is deeply depressing.
It's also deeply depressing that you're basically doing the same thing now, brother. Brother be like, yo, I know I'm an anti-Nazi and you're a subconscious Nazi, but let's go grab a beer after this.
But when you look at the Republicans and how strongly they're still holding on to him, even after his equivalency on Nazis, it is depressing state of the Republican Party in today's America.
He used to claim to be so depressed about this shit, but now he claims everything is awesome because even though right-wing populists are okay with welfare as long as they can exclude certain groups, he's gonna hang out with them a lot. And he may get treated like them because they'll make him an honorary member. Not a full member, but like it'll be chill for him and he can go on the PBD podcast and play patty cake with Vinny and then go for a beer afterwards.
And if you ask those people, they'll say they're not racist, of course. Almost all, I mean, there was a Grand Wizard of the KKK after Charlottesville got interviewed and he said, no, I'm not racist. I just think white people are superior to black people. I'm like, oh, God. No one ever wants to say they're racist.
But since they don't consciously think that, they're going to be repelled by you saying that.
It is of utmost importance not to repel racists by calling them racists. Just let them do their thing. Hope they don't realize you're a different race, or if you can't pull that off because of the different race thing, act as non-threatening, as non-other ethnicity as you can so they accept you to a certain degree. Then get them to keep accepting you, and then you'll cure their racism and toast over a mug of beer and paid family leave. They won't think you're worthy of the paid family leave, but that's okay, because it's just okay. If only Cenk had been born when racism started and Twitter was invented back then, so then he could have solved all of this before any of it happened.
So, but even those guys, they might not say outwardly racist things, the ones in the study, right?
Yep.
But it's in the back of their head. Black guy means scary. Black guys don't deserve it. And that is buried in, unfortunately, millions, tens of millions of people's heads in America. And that has consequences, and that has effects, including electing a guy like Trump, who then goes after minorities.
Right,
Whether they call tough on crime. He's like, maybe encourages the cops to be, to rough people up, going after immigrants, going after Muslims, etc.
So Cenk didn't always see this the same way, but hey, some people may need to get roughed up. So a certain segment of the country, not going to say which segment, because that might repel that segment, but a certain segment may get paid family leave. And that's what it's all about these days. Let's close this out with one of Cenk's greatest points these days about why we should work with MAGA.
So does that legitimize? Well, first of all, they won the election, so they won the popular vote. They won all the swing states. Like, we have it in our mind that
You know, Cenk is so right about that. Trump won the election, so you should give up on racial justice, equality, fairness, fringe far left stuff like that, so that Cenk can join left-wing populists with right-wing populists, even though the whole wing thing means they're diametrically opposed. Cenk knows damn well he's saying a bunch of BS for his social media career, to raise more money, to rub shoulders with Elon Musk or, I don't know, Don Jr., When things get stagnant, you gotta shake shit up, make some moves. I hope it's abundantly clear to all. These topics are absolute jokes to Cenk. This is all just gamesmanship. He hasn't even made anything close to a serious attempt at resolving all the stuff he said in the past with what his stance is now. And it simply doesn't add up. And it doesn't need to, because Cenk just wants the attention, he wants the clout, he wants the money, he wants the importance. He wants it all. I mean, look at him. He wants it all.